The two best wrestlers at 157 pounds in the country are both at Penn State, which means only one of them can start.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That is right. You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling, and thank you so much for checking out another edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily source for all things Penn State sports. My name is Zach Seyko, and I am your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State Wrestling and Penn State Football. And help me welcome back the voice of Penn State Wrestling, Jeff Byers, as we are in part two of this two-part series to preview the entire 2025-26 wrestling season. As we're going to go through the schedule, we're in the final segment. We'll talk about the schedule's dual meets that stand out and could challenge Penn State, right? Could challenge them. Starting heavyweight could be up for grabs. 165 through 197 is just an absolute gauntlet. Again, we'll go weight class by weight class, starting with 157 pounds as PJ Duke and Tyler Kasak, the two best wrestlers in the country at 157 pounds, are both in State College. Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section. And if you missed part one, links to it will be down in the description. I encourage you to go check that out as well. So as we kick off part two here, Jeff, what a way to start this conversation, as PJ Duke, the number one pound for pound wrestler in the entire class of 2025. We saw what he did on the senior level. He just won a U20 gold medal. What a decorated offseason that he had on the freestyle circuit. And then Tyler Kasak, didn't get to take home an NCAA title this past season, but took third place. Another time where he back-to-back third place finishes, and you could make the argument that he would be a strong title contender, if not the favorite again at 157, but only one of them can start since there's only one spot in the lineup for them.
Yeah, and it's it's interesting because they both obviously have a red shirt available, which is beneficial for Penn State, and they don't have to make a final determination anytime soon. It's a fascinating battle in that I do think, even though obviously Antrell Taylor is going to have something to say about this as well, the returning national champion, but I think Kasak goes in feeling like he should be the national champion. I think Penn State feels like he should be the national champion, and then here comes PJ Duke, who is, all world and just a phenom like very few we've seen. I do think Kasak, there's just something about his attitude, his bravado when he takes the mat. And, again, it's another one of those situations that no matter which one goes and which one redshirts ultimately, Penn State is in great shape, and that's an understatement, because both of these guys are capable of not just going out and winning the title. They're capable of going out and dominating just about everybody and racking up bonus points in a big way when the postseason rolls around. So, I think if you're Penn State, you just you sit back and enjoy watching both of these young men compete, and count yourself as very fortunate that you're in a program where you have two guys at a weight class the caliber of PJ Duke and Tyler Kasak. Just again, both really special wrestlers.
You bring up an interesting point that Penn State doesn't need to make this decision quickly. It's different in the case of 141, because I think some people will step back and say, I am anticipating that PJ Duke actually wrestles against Oklahoma, and then that's our answer. It's done and over with. See, clearly Penn State has their starter. That's actually not the case, because true freshmen get a redshirt grace period where they can actually wrestle, what is it, up to 5 or 6 matches. I can't remember exactly there, but they get that period where they can wrestle a few matches and not have to burn their redshirt. With Tyler Kasak and Braden Davis as well, we will actually, if Aaron Nagao starts at 141, we actually get more of an answer as who's the starter at 141. But in the case of 157, we'll get some evidence with the Oklahoma duel. We'll get some evidence with the Army Black Knight Invitational, which is going to be huge. But if Tyler Kasak ends up being the starter, that actually we might not know until PJ Duke has 5 matches under his belt.
Yeah, and again, I think it's a great situation for Penn State to be in, and the fact that you do have again that red shirt available for either of those wrestlers makes this not maybe not quite as dire of a situation for whoever is not the starter this season, where you're still retaining all of your eligibility. So, to me, at least for this year, it's just a great situation to have, and you just sit back and see how it all plays out.
Now, with what I'm anticipating, and maybe Jeff, what you're anticipating as well, we've kind of talked about the gymnastics, or the way that Penn State could actually set this up very well, where PJ Duke wrestles, because the argument is that it actually is more strategic for Penn State to wrestle PJ Duke, because what you can't go wrong with one or the other. Duke's a title contender and Kasak's a title contender. But which one's the better title contender? Well, if we're thinking long term, it would be better to have Duke go this season, because he's not going to be at 157 forever. He's eventually going to move up to 165 naturally, and maybe even 174 when all said and done at the end of his collegiate wrestling career. He's not a natural 157 pounder. He's only going to get bigger and stronger. So use the season where you have him at 57, redshirt Kasak, and then basically flip them the adjacent year, where Duke takes the red shirt next year, grows into his next weight class, and you have Kasak come back and settle in right at 57.
Yeah, they certainly have options there, and I think coaching staff has to just be counting their blessings that they have the situation they do there.
So, and just for the sake of it, again, we mentioned depth in part one. Joe Seeley is at 150. He's listed at 157 currently. He could go at 165, but that's just, Tyler Kasak, okay, PJ Duke, but you also have Joe Seeley competing there, and that's just that's an all-America caliber wrestler there as the third string, quote unquote.
Yep, no question.
So that will be something that everybody is going to watch, look forward to. Again, Tyler Kasak is already competing in a freestyle competition. So again, looking for evidence where we figure out what 157 is going to look like before it's actually finalized there. But you could classify this all together, because 165 through 197 is just an absolute gauntlet. Mitchell Mesenbrink is going to be, and we'll focus weight class by weight class, but starting with 65 and 74, Mesenbrink is going to be the title favorite. Levi Haynes is going to be the title favorite. 184 is crowded, so Rocco Welsh doesn't have as clear of an outlook, but he is a strong title contender. He's one of the title favorites. Josh Barr is the title favorite at 97. Again, these four weight classes is murderer's row, to say the least, for Penn State.
Yeah, and again, it's not just that they're expected to win. That it's, Mesenbrink probably goes into the season as the favorite to win the Hodge this year, and probably Levi would be seen as maybe the biggest threat to his run at the Hodge. Certainly one on the of the short list of other contenders that you would list as primary threats to Mesenbrink and the Hodge in the upcoming season. So, those two guys, I think, again, the expectation is bonus points, not just wins, in just about every time they take the mat, regardless of the opponent. And, Rocco Welsh is a guy that's just fit in so well here with the Penn State culture. And again, I think 184, to me, those top four guys, and I'm not sure, the top four to me were clear from the outset, and I'm not sure why the rankings were exactly what they were, but I think that they have it right now in terms of the four guys. And I just think on any given day, I mean, Max MacAnally is obviously a really, really special wrestler from Minnesota, but I'm just telling you, between Ferrari, Ryder, and Welsh, there is anybody that thinks it's a guarantee or it's going to be a lock for MacAnally. I just think you're kidding yourself. I think any of those four guys on any given day, and there may be some other guys out there that can upset any of those four in a given match, but I think those four are just all elite exceptional wrestlers, great competitors, and I think it's just going to be a wild race all season long. And if those four are healthy, I think you're just going to have two great semifinals bouts and then great matchups for the finals and third place, no matter who it is. And I could see any of those four finishing anywhere from first through fourth.
And as we continue this conversation, we'll look at the biggest challengers, because while Mesenbrink and Haynes are going to be the odds-on favorite, and Josh Barr as well, and Rocco Welsh, I mean, he's ranked number 2 according to Intermat. So who are going to be the biggest threats to those guys taking home an NCAA title and being at the top of their weight classes? Where we are going to discuss that next, coming up on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by Wayfair. The holiday season is right around the corner, and that means it's time to get your home ready. Whether you need more seating for guests, cozy new linens, or a fun serveware for holiday hosting, Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to help you make your space shine. And the best part, you don't have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long with up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. You can upgrade anything. Dining room chairs, your rug from Wayfair, and it will completely transform your room. Everything's shipped quickly, easily, just in time for the holidays, and browsing through the Wayfair site is easy. It's easy to find pieces that actually fit your style. There's nothing generic, quality designs that feel personal. If you've ever hosted the family for the holidays, you know how much of a difference a few new touches can make. Wayfair makes that easy. Don't miss out on the early Black Friday deals. Head over to wayfair.com now to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. That is WAYFAIR.com. Sale ends December 7th. And still to come in the second part episode, heavyweight is not a surefire thing with Cole Mirasola. Lucas Cochran bumps up to heavyweight. We'll discuss that battle later on in the show and talk about the schedule, who Penn State's going to wrestle throughout the dual meet season. Okay, so continuing with 65, 74, 84, 97, and a little rapid fire here because so many weight classes to get to. 65, why we can say with confidence, well, Mitchell Mesenbrink is just as talented as he is. But 65, in comparison to some of these other classes, isn't as stacked, to say the least. When you look at, hey, lightweight, 133, 141, I can go, every class has, a subjective reason why, but I look at 165 and it's because Mitchell Mesenbrink creates such a clear gap. Mikey Caliendo, Joey Blaze bumping up to 165, I think is going to be a little intriguing. Maybe, if you needed me to go on the record now, I'm kind of anticipating a Joey Blaze versus Mitchell Mesenbrink final. It's no disrespect to Caliendo. I just like what Joey Blaze has to offer with what I've seen from him in these competitions.
Yeah, Blaze is special talent. Caliendo is just so consistent, and I have a hard time betting against him. But yeah, both those guys are obviously really good, really special wrestlers. Mesenbrink is he's just a different different breed of cat, and again, he is so proficient with his scoring abilities and can hit you from so many different angles, so many different ways. He continues to just add to that remarkable arsenal he has. Certainly you're around this sport enough. You never say never, but boy, Mitchell is understandably a prohibitive favorite going into the season. And really, I think Levi Haynes, it's the same thing at 174. He's faced all of those top contenders before and has handled them with relative ease. And I think Levi has again taken another leap with his wrestling. I think the freestyle circuit run that he had is going to serve him well when we get back to Folkstyle here, because I think his confidence, not that he's ever lacked it, but I just think it's brimming right now. And just some of the little things that he's picked up and added to his arsenal, again, I think it's just going to pay off in a big way, where he's not just winning, but dominating on a very consistent basis throughout the upcoming season.
And that's an incredible teaching moment for Haynes, for somebody that wasn't didn't come to Penn State with, all this freestyle background similar to a PJ Duke, to a Marcus Blaze, to a Luke Lillidahl. Levi Haynes was, hey, this is here for you if you want to explore this. And he's like, yeah, I will. And then to come out immediately and win a U23, when he's essentially a rookie on the freestyle circuit.
Yeah.
He's winning a U23 title, runner-up at the senior level, and keeps it close. I mean, Levi Haynes, just what an incredible run he has had through his, not only his NCAA career, but just how he's taken the everything that Penn State has given him and taken it beyond what you could have expected from him at this point. I think he's just shattered expectations overall. You can't even begin to describe what Haynes has accomplished, just taking everything that Penn State has offered him from a teachable spot. 184, there was the controversy in the offseason, right? And I'm not here to discuss that, because what's done is done. Rocco Welsh is at Penn State, Zach Ryder's at Oklahoma State. Can't wait to see them scrap if we get to that point in the postseason, and it's going to make for a great match. Zach Ryder, right out of the gate, getting a dominant win over the likes of Jackson Smith, who, according to Intermat, is number 5 wrestler still at Maryland. Saw him compete against, Carter Starachi from time to time. But as we mentioned, Carter Starachi, Rocco Welsh was a runner-up as a true freshman against Starachi in one of Starachi's 5 NCAA titles. So for Welsh to take that red shirt, and again, the controversy around that, was that in his best interest? Was that in Ohio State's best interest at the end of the day? He lands at Penn State, and Max MacAnally, I know what he is. I know what Angelo Ferrari is. Zach Ryder's kind of already proving that, hey, he's really talented. Why would Penn State let him go? I also want to throw out Aiden Sinclair. I think Aiden Sinclair is somebody that could be a late riser in this and should be considered, a fringe title contender as well. He gave Max MacAnally some trouble on the freestyle circuit. But I'm really entertained because I feel like we know who the 4 are. I want to say 5 because I want to include Sinclair in this. It's going to be a cloud of dust, and one of these names is going to emerge as you've laid out here already.
Yeah, and I think, again, if you like elite competition, I think 184 is going to be as good as it gets when you talk about the cream of the crop. Again, I think you have 4 really special wrestlers there. That again, on any given day, I think any of them are certainly capable of winning the title, and I think will put up a lot of points before we get to the Friday night semifinal round at the NCAA tournament.
Well, and Jeff, here's what I want to pose here to keep this conversation, and make it even more interesting, is who do you think, from a style perspective or anything else, any other factors, if let's say that Rocco Welsh, since he's been to an NCAA final, since he's been the closest to capturing a title, that Welsh should be presumed number 1 and not necessarily Max MacAnally. I mean, who poses the biggest challenge? Is it MacAnally? Is it Ferrari because he's a little more unorthodox with the way that he drops down in his wrestling and wrestles so low? Or again, Zach Ryder, who honestly, just has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, given that, that connection there.
Yeah. And he just has such a passion for the sport. He is a fun kid to watch wrestle. Honestly, Zach, I'm not sure until we see these guys actually compete against each other. I'm really not sure how to handicap it. And in my mind, they're kind of 4 co-favorites. I mean, you'll read different things. MacAnally is just that special. And I'm not denying how special he is. What I'm telling you is I think that all 4 of these kids are that kind of special. And it's just not often that you get a weight class where you have it's not that often that you get 2 guys that are truly, like, really special, historically great type of wrestlers. In my mind, and again, we'll see how it plays out. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I think these 4 are all on a very similar plane. And, I'm expecting going into the season that really on any given night, any of them is capable of beating the other 3 and losing to the other 3. And I think it's just going to be a matter of, if and when they meet throughout the course of the season, hey, who's on, who hits the biggest move at the biggest moment, that'll determine it. But they all bring a little, different element, a little different style. But all four, to me, really talented, really great mindsets, really great competitors. And I just, that is the one weight class. We talked about 33 earlier, and I think 33 is deep, but I don't know that there's the elite talent, as much elite talent as those four bring at 184 at any other weight class.
And again, the depth here, and we're going to talk about Josh Barr now, but to have Joe Seeley, as a backup potentially at 165, right? William Hankel comes in as a true freshman. You have Asher Cunningham as an option at 74 or 84. And then as we get to Josh Barr, Connor Mirasola still biding his time, sitting and waiting his turn, somebody that could be considered in his own right. I talk about how 157, the two best at 157 are in-state college. Yeah. Could you make the argument at 197? Absolutely, as Josh Barr is going to be an overwhelming favorite to most at 197 with what he did as a redshirt freshman, falling short in an NCAA final, bumping up a weight class, right? More of a natural 184, but grows into 197. Yep. Now he's the odds-on favorite. Did pick up, a little bit of a scare there in freestyle international wrestling. It sounds like things are all good, but Penn State does have the, here's what, when I want to talk about 197 is that Penn State has the luxury not to rush Josh Barr back into anything if he is dealing with any bumps and bruises. You have an anchor right there with Connor Mirasola ready to go if he has to do some fill-in.
Yeah, no question about it. And Connor is a very special wrestler in his own right. And Josh will be the first one to tell you that having the guys around him in that room, is you're talking about the depth. What they have accumulated here in terms of top end talent is just, it's stunning. And William Hankel is really special. I think Asher Cunningham is just coming into his own here. He's always been very good, but I just think that's a guy that over the course of the last year and a half here has become elite himself. And again, it is just a wonderful, an embarrassment of riches, really, for Penn State with what they have right now in that room in the upper weights. And again, I think all of these guys genuinely love competing, love being here around this program, around this coaching staff, and they're all just soaking up the knowledge and the opportunities here that they have day in and day out in that room.
And while Barr is going to be the favorite here at 197, just to put it into perspective before we shift to heavyweight, Rocky Elam transferring to Iowa State, Stephen Little still at Little Rock, Joey Novak at Wyoming, who dealt with injuries last season, Max Stout at Pittsburgh. This is going to be a fun 190. Justin Rademacher at Oregon State, Cody Merrill at Oklahoma State. This is a 197-pound class that will be entertaining regardless, even though Barr kind of stands out above the rest. So. But at heavyweight, Gable Steveson, gets upset by Wyatt Hendrickson, but there was just so much talent that walked away. And I'm thinking to myself, Cole Mirasola, should have a great affair and even start at heavyweight. But no, that class reloaded, and so did Penn State at heavyweight by bumping up Lucas Cochran. So not everything's certain as who's going to be starting at 285. We're going to discuss that next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets. That's right, $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Those bonus bets can be used on anything: NFL, NBA, college football. Lines for Penn State's next game are available. Penn State at Michigan State. And This is a little bit of a change here. Penn State is actually favored in this game after being an underdog for quite some time now. The Nittany Lions are 7.5-point favorites as it stands, minus 295 on the money line, plus 235 if you're thinking Sparty. The total is set at 48.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com. And remember, new customers will get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We'll talk about the schedule to wrap up this two-part series to preview Penn State's entire wrestling season. But we got to pick back up with heavyweight, as it seemed like a certain thing for the most part. Cole Mirasola, hey, the baton's going to be, the torch is going to be passed from Greg Kirkfleet to Cole Mirasola. Cole goes through the redshirt season, bulks up to heavyweight. That takes some time. Kirkfleet did it as well. Wasn't an immediate heavyweight, and then had to really truly grow into that role. And Mirasola, it really is truly symbolic in a way. But then there's a roster change, and you hear some rumblings, and Lucas Cochran now enters into the mix, and it at least is either there as depth or as somebody to challenge Cole Mirasola. Iron sharpens iron, but to make sure that he is a viable starter throughout the season, that Penn State can rely on him, and especially in the postseason. If we're going to talk about shattering records, Mirasola is going to look to be an All-American, if not better, and we'll talk about that heavyweight class and why it's so deep. But Cochran versus Mirasola, Jeff, your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think it's another intriguing battle. Both are probably a little undersized, but continuing to work. Lucas has put on, and he's worked at it. I know sometimes other wrestlers will laugh at the notion that you're having to work to put weight on when so many of them are trying to figure out how to lose and keep the weight off. But yeah. To put good weight on, I mean, it really is. It is a serious endeavor, and you're eating a lot of the right things. It's not like he's just out there downing pizza and ice cream and chugging beers. I mean, it is getting the right protein in there, and then making sure you're able to sustain that weight and turn it into muscle and not lose your quickness and all of those things. I mean, it is not an easy process, not nearly as easy as I think people might initially imagine. Hey, cool, you can gain 45 pounds. Yeah, but you're trying to gain 45 pounds in a short period of time or thereabouts. I'm not putting an exact
of athletic
number.
Muscle, because you're gonna be left in the dust if you put on unhealthy weight.
Now, the advantage is if you can keep that quickness. I do think there can be, like when you go back to Anthony Kasak, I think he was used to wrestling at that lower weight, and it's a different style of wrestling at 197 or any weight versus heavyweight. But if you can bring a little bit of that element of the quickness and more of the low leg attacks, it can make you really dangerous. And I think you've seen Cole Mirasola really make some strides over the last year in getting there. I think Lucas Cochran saw, this would be his best opportunity to get into the starting lineup. And I think he's largely trying to go the Anthony Kasak route in terms of, hey, I want to take advantage of a year here to go in and try to see if I can finish this thing off the way I want to, which is on top of the podium. And so I do think it's going to be a battle. I think both of those guys are really good. I think they have a chance to become right there to become title contenders by the end of the season. I don't think either starts the season necessarily as being right there, but with this coaching staff and with the schedule Penn State has, and listen, the fact that they'll be pushing each other in that room, whoever emerges as the starter here, again, I think by the end of the season has a real chance to finish at least high in the placings at the NCAA tournament. And yeah, in my mind, this really is kind of a toss-up, Zach, because Lucas Cochran is a really good wrestler. Right? You asked Josh Barr about the competition in that room last year with both Lucas and Connor Mirasola. he will tell you that was as good a competition as he was facing all throughout the year. And so I'm excited to see how that works itself out this season. It's going to be tough to see either of those guys not have the starting opportunity, but whoever ends up going at heavyweight will have earned it here for the Nittany Lions this season.
And I agree with you 110% as far as I view this as a true 50-50 toss-up, because Mirasola goes through the redshirt season, adjusts to heavyweight, whereas Cochran, he dabbled in it. But when he was a 197-pounder, he went out there and won. I pointed this out a couple of other times. Slavakuski, who was at Rutgers, who was a true heavyweight, Cochran beat him once upon a time in a dual meet as a 197-pounder against a true heavyweight. So don't look at this as, oh, this is a desperation move, or, maybe it's kind of an end of a collegiate career crisis, because people said, well, why didn't Cochran transfer out? He doesn't have a clear outlook. Well, if you don't have the clear outlook, you make one. You create one, and that's what Cochran's done here by, hey, Kirkfleet vacates the spot. Nobody's guaranteed the starting role. Just because you can make a projection doesn't mean anything. And again, we're going to get some clarity on that. That's why the Army Black Knight Invitational is so important for Penn State early on in the season. But Jeff, to look at this before we get to the schedule itself, the heavyweight class, as much as I would like Cochran and or Mirasola, and I think they can get onto the podium as an All-American, title contention, that's going to be the toughest. That's going to be the toughest sell for me there, because AJ Ferrari bumps up and he looks phenomenal transferring to Nebraska. Younger Bastida returns from injury at Iowa State. He would be quote unquote the odds-on favorite, but Isaac Trumbull returns. Tay Gadiali transfers to Michigan. He's a Ben Keeter, Nick Feldman over at Ohio State. Nathan Taylor at Lehigh. Luke Luffman returns for another year of eligibility. For Illinois. Connor Doucette at Oklahoma State. So this is a really crowded heavyweight class. I thought that, hey, Gable Steveson and Wyatt Hendrickson are gone. It was extremely top heavy. At least there's a little bit of room for a Mirasola and now a Cochran to make a name for themselves. Not the case. It's as crowded as ever.
Yeah, I am curious to see kind of how it shakes out, because a lot of very good wrestlers there, and maybe some that'll be great here by the end of the year. Certainly Ferrari has established himself, not at this weight class, but I mean, he's established himself as a great wrestler. The others you mentioned, all very good, and again, could be great and could go win national titles this year. I'm really curious to see kind of where, almost at the outset, Mirasola and or Cochran fit in there, and then kind of what that looks like as they progress through the season, as they learn a little more about how to adjust to some of those top competitors. That weight class, I think, is to me. I think Bastida is ranked number one, but in my mind, Ferrari's kind of the guy to beat there. And then I think there's a lot of guys that are going to be in the mix. And I think, again, by the end of the year, whoever it is, whether it's Cochran or Cole Mirasola, I think they will be in the mix. Exactly how it shakes out, well, that's going to be the fun of seeing how the season and then the postseason unfolds.
All right, we get to the schedule, and Penn State's schedule, it doesn't have Oklahoma State. It's got Oklahoma, though, but this is still, the Big Ten Conference is so difficult as it is. Penn State, and just to kind of point out everything, and we've had discussions about this before, Oklahoma State potentially being at Beaver Stadium, the national duel, should Penn State participate, should they not participate? Hey, I'm not going to question Cael Sanderson, whatever. He's earned the right to make whatever decision that he thinks is best for the program. So if he's not entering the national duels, you look at what Penn State does on the freestyle circuit and how they perform in March. It's all down to, he has it down to a science at this point. And again, It's I think the freestyle aspect of it has so much to do with that. But they're starting right out of the gate with a high profile opponent in Oklahoma in the Bryce Jordan Center on November 14th. The Black Knight Invitational, for Penn State's purposes of figuring out those lineup spots, will be extremely important. A top 10, maybe even a top 5 Lehigh team is going to be at Rec Hall on December 7th. You have some other non-conference opponents. Again, the day that Penn State could and should break the record for most consecutive dual meet victories. Stanford down in Nashville, Tennessee on Saturday, December 20th. They'll return home, face Rutgers, then go on the road against Iowa in the middle of January. They'll face Nebraska, Michigan, and Ohio State back to back to back to back. And I think that's going to be their most, Iowa is what it is. Lehigh will be what it's going to be. But that stretch at the end of the season, Jeff, with Nebraska, Michigan, and Ohio State all like that, is going to be a 3-week stretch where it's going to be really entertaining before Penn State ends up hosting the Big Ten tournament at the Bryce Jordan Center. And then, of course, the NCAA tournament being held this season at Cleveland, Ohio in Rocket Arena. So, I mean, Jeff, what a schedule that they have this season. Your overall reaction there? Which aspect of it stands out to you? All of it, yeah, I imagine?
Yeah, I think the 3 Jordan Center duels are an intriguing part of it. And listen, going into the season, I think if all of the teams stay healthy and you're projecting that their best lineup, I think Nebraska again is in my mind the biggest threat to Penn State again this season. They have a very good roster. They are very hungry. I like what they are doing there, and I think they return a ton of talent from a year ago, and then you add obviously Ferrari. I think that's going to be a team that is going to be fun to watch just for college wrestling fans throughout the course of the season. I think the Oklahoma match is a good test. I've had a couple people, I don't think Oklahoma stacks up real well with Penn State. I'm like, well, yeah, I don't think anybody stacks up, real well with Penn State, Nebraska and Oklahoma State and Iowa included. I mean, certainly some better than others. I do think it's an improved Oklahoma team, and I think while Penn State will be favored in most of the matches there, I do think there should be some good competition. But yeah, I think having the 3 Jordan Center duels is going to be a neat experience for both the teams coming in and for the kids on the Penn State roster. The thing, though, that really stands out to me is we have the potential for another historic run for the Nittany Lions in the postseason. And for the fans, this is about as convenient a postseason as you're ever going to find, where you're actually hosting the Big Ten tournament in your backyard at Penn State. And then you have a pretty short drive to Cleveland, Ohio for the NCAA championship. So you can see both postseason tournaments without a lot of travel expenditures. And that's not often the case, where neither of those tournaments are either going to be very long drives or you feel like you need to fly to get there. Having them this close to Happy Valley, I think is going to make it all the more special for fans that want to take in what could be another historically great season.
And Jeff's going to be covering it all. The voice of Penn State Wrestling will narrate this entire season, which could see history. It's going to be fun. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be everything you could expect from it, because it is Penn State Wrestling. And that's where we will cap off this conversation in time about Penn State Wrestling. More to come on Locked On Nittany Lions, of course, throughout the entirety of the season as they kick off the season with Oklahoma in the Bryce Jordan Center. My name is Zach Seyko. I'm your host of Locked On Nittany Lions. As always, he's the voice of Penn State Wrestling, Jeff Byers. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments section. Remember, part 1, if you missed it, links will be in the description, along with links to Jeff's work outside of wrestling. Jeff, thank you so much for the time. I know how busy you are. I know how excited you're ready to start the wrestling season, but thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us here on Locked On Nittany Lions.
Sure. Thanks, Zach.